Okay, welcome. This video is going to be half devlog, half tutorial, and it's going to be basically me playing through this new game I'm working on, Knights of Albeiron. I'll be playing in the game for a while, get things set up and running, and hopefully this will act as a tutorial for people to learn the game. So, without further ado, let's get started. Going to hit new game. Comments. So there'll be different rules. Rules will be added in future updates, but for now there's just one rule, Lord. You can also observe the game in the third person too. If you're so inclined, you can edit your flag here. I won't, just for the sake of time. Let's go with that one. Let's get started generating the world. So Knights of Albeiron is a procedurally generated game. So we could enter in any seed, and it's going to create a random map based on it. So you can play around with that. You can tinker as well, see what type of worlds you want to create. For now, they're pretty basic, and world generation can be improved in future updates as well. There's a few new player recommendations up here in the top right. I would recommend choosing one of these here for your first few playthroughs until you know what's actually happening. But we can look around the world here, and we can see different settlements. You can see river networks here. There's fertile land near rivers. You got some forest and mountains up here. You've got two real things that sit on top of the game world. You've got settlements and you've got locations. Let me just jump in here. So I'm going to go for Torrenville. I'm going to press Claim Capital. You can rename the city if you so wish. Okay, so we've fully loaded into the game now, and we've taken control of our faction. We've got the city-state of Torrenville here, obviously named after the city, Torrenville. And we've also got Lord Oakwind here as well. Now, there's two main resources at the moment that you need to manage from the perspective of a faction. It's food and gold. Food is how you feed your people, and gold is how you pay your soldiers. Looking down here in the bottom left, you can see the settlement UI. You can see that there's a total of 700 civilians in this settlement at the moment. Population's growing at 0.5%. You can see where it's coming from, taxation and welfare. And this will grow over time. And as the population grows, unemployment will increase, and once unemployment gets to 100, you can use those unemployed folks to build locations, or you can recruit them into your army as well as different units. So you can see here that we've got 15 food, 15 gold production. This is very healthy. That's extremely standard in the sense of the word. You can see that 1 food is coming from farms, 14 from fishing villages, and then 10 gold from taxation and 5 gold from inns as well. So very healthy economy. And let me just show you here. So if you go into the top left here, you click this here interface. This will open your faction UI. And from here, this will give you the high-level overview of your faction. As you conquer new settlements, it can be quite hard to switch between them. It's a lot of micromanagement. So you can come here to really understand the inner workings of your faction. So you see your population. There's 700 civilians. There's 400 soldiers. You can see the breakdown for food and gold as well. And you've got your levers of power. Okay, and these are basically allow you to kind of tune the how the faction functions on a monthly basis. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up. Reinforce. This represents as you take casualties in battles, sieges, you will need to reinforce your soldiers, reinforce your units with soldiers, and this basically determines how many soldiers per month you can reinforce. So if you've got a unit with 80 men out of 100, every month they'll replace 10, assuming that you have the gold to pay for the new recruits. You also need to be in a settlement with unemployed people for reinforcement to actually happen. So just be aware of that. Looking at welfare, this is basically how much food you're giving to the people. So generally speaking, you want to give as much food as possible, and this will increase population growth if you can feed your people. It's also very expensive to give 2 foods per 100 pops, so for now we're going to leave it at 1.5. And then finally, taxation it works in the inverse of welfare, so the lower your taxes are, the higher population growth you will have as well. So again, just going to leave it super standard, 1.5 gold per 100 population, 1.5 food per 100 population. And then if you want to work out the mathematics behind that there, you can just look at these here 2 sections here. So that gives you the overview. And you can, you conquer new lands, you might conquer a settlement that has a lot of gold production. Okay, you can lower taxes to improve population growth, conquer another settlement, there's a ton of food, you can bump up the welfare as well. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is locations. There's several locations. More will be added as time goes on, as new updates come out. So you've got a fishing village here, and the fishing village will produce food, and you get +2 food per adjacent coast. So you can see here that there's a coast to the north, there's a coast to the west, and this is the case for all these villages down here running along the coast, so they're all producing 4 food each. Obviously this one only has 1 coast, so it's only producing 2 food. So that's the fishing village. Let's move over here to farms. You can see, Torrenvale, our settlement at the moment, very heavily reliant on that fishing for the food income, not so much a farming settlement. Looking over here to Mirror instead, it's a weird name, but yeah, so they're primarily farming based here, and farms get their bonuses from, they get +1 to start. Every farm will always have +1. You also get +1 food from fertile soil. So this is this land, this bright green land surrounding the rivers. So building farms along rivers is recommended. Farms also get +1 adjacency bonus for being by a river. So you can see that this farm is producing 3 food per month. If we go back to the city, we can see our farm is only producing 1 food per month. So this is a very inefficient way to be using that 100 population. Remember, to build these buildings, you need to have people, and currently this could be used in a better way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to depopulate this building, and that will put 100 people back into the unemployment pool, and we're going to recruit an additional unit of footmen. So jumping back again, that is the food production explained for farms. Let's move on to another food production building. It's called the windmill, and they get their adjacency bonus from being beside other farms. So you can see that this windmill is actually producing 4 food, because 1, 2, 3, 4, it's surrounded. All adjacency bonuses work on a 4-directional basis. The units can't move diagonally, buildings don't get their adjacency bonus diagonally, etc. So north, south, east, west, basically. You can see that this windmill is producing 3 food per month. You can see north, east, and south. There's a road here, so it's not getting the additional +1 food. also here, you can see this windmill's got 2 foot, because north and east. So that's the windmill. Moving on to the inn now. The inn is a gold production building. The previous 3 were food production. The inn actually produces gold. So they're quite a valuable building. And they get their adjacency bonus from being beside roads, which are these grey lines connecting each of the settlements. You'll find that all settlements are connected to the road network in some capacity. And roads are very important because they determine how you can expand. Okay, what do I mean by this? So you can only attack other settlements that are adjacent on the road network. So if we look here, I've just random settlement, Eldahaven. There's these 2 white arrows here. If you hover over it, it'll tell you specifically which settlements they border. They border 5 settlements, and just to explain it, you can see Eldahaven can come down here east and then south into Ithenbridge. Okay, that's pretty simple. Eldahaven heading north, there's actually a junction. Okay, so left is Ravenwick, so it's Eldahaven's connected to Ravenwick, but also because of this junction, you move over here again. And there's another junction, so they're connected to Norradale and Bellinton. And finally, there's another junction here, and that gets them to Winneville. So you can see those are the 5 settlements. And basically, they're adjacent. If they're adjacent, basically based on if there's a direct road connection or if there's a junction between that. So, for example, you can see that those are the 5 settlements that Eldahaven's connected to. They are not connected to Eurodale, because to get to Eurodale, they would have to stop in Winneville. Winneville, of course, is connected to Eurodale up in the north, but they are not connected to Ithenbridge in the south, because they would have to go through Eldahaven. That's basically how the road network works. And that is going to be a fundamental pillar as new mechanics are added as well in terms of things like trade. So, how does that road network function in practice? So if I go to my character here on the top, I click on him, and I'm going to have a breakdown of categories for available actions, administrative, encourage migration. This will generate additional population. We can have our lord sit in the capital, and they will just do this by default. They will encourage migration. And you can see it takes a couple of days, and 5 new pops have entered the pool, and we can see them there in the unemployment. Another 6 pops. So this is a quick way of adding additional population to your settlement instead of waiting for through the natural population growth every month from the percentages. So end of the month, we can see that our stockpiles have changed based on our net income, and we've recruited our additional unit of footmen. So I think now is the time to go on the offensive. We can already see there's a couple of aggressive lords here. We can see the armies came down from Pellinmere here to besiege Pellistead. They're besieging with 400 men, and we can see the units here. Looking at the garrison, there's only 2 units in the garrison. Down here in Ornowick, we can see there's a garrison of 300 against a besieging force of 400. So there's a lot of combat, and Lord Oakwind is just going to chill out. He's not going to get too aggressive. He's going to wait and let his... We can see that an army was actually defeated there. So that siege actually failed. And all of the siege... Well, not this one. This... the Pellinmere was able to conquer Pellistead. And Mirenwood, who was besieging Ornowick, has actually failed their assault. So now I think it's time for Lord Oakwind to mobilize his units. Let me just talk a little bit about the units. You can see here there's different classes. There's peasants, footmen, spearmen, bowmen, knights. These are all different types of units, and they're broken down further into classes. So there's cavalry, there's ranged, and there's infantry, and they will play a role in the tactical battle simulator later. For now, I'll just outline that peasants are they're a unit for moving around population. Say you want to move, you don't want to use these guys in a fight. They're very bad. Their stats are not good. They're mainly they give you the opportunity to move population around. Say there was a specific settlement that you conquered. There's a lot of viable locations to put buildings in, but you don't have the population. You can recruit peasants from another one of your settlements and bring them in that way to construct the buildings. Footmen, very standard frontline infantry. Spearmen, very similar to footmen, except they get a bonus to fighting cavalry. The bowmen sound exactly how you would think they are. They're ranged. They will shoot arrows at the enemy front line. And knights, they are heavily armored cavalry, which will do additional damage. Apart from the units that you can recruit, there are some unique units, and these are the bannermen of a character. So you can see you can control Lord Oakwind himself directly, but Lord Oakwind is also in the garrison as a unit, and he leads a unit of bannermen, and bannermen are unique to named characters. So for example, if we go down to Mirrorwood, we can see the defeated Lord Jorah Ravenwatch. His bannermen only have 29. That's obviously because his siege failed and he was defeated. He's got 12 footmen and 27 bowmen as well in Mirrorwood. So I think that's enough talking for now. I think that Lord Oakwind is going to assault the settlement. There are no sieges in 0.1. Sieges basically operate the same way battles do. Again, in a future update, I will eventually add sieges. But for now, they're just basically battles. So, assault settlement. We're going to choose from the list here, and we're going to say Mirrorwood is our target. And now we have to select what troops we want to take. All of our units are fully reinforced, so we're just going to take all of them, and we're going to confirm. You can see that Lord Oakwind has now left the settlement of Torrenvale. The garrison is empty, and he has formed an army of 500 men. It's time to unpause, and the army will follow along the roads to assault Mirrorwood. Okay, so Lord Oakwind has reached the settlement now. The task assaulting settlement is counting down, 19 days, 18 days, you get the whole point. Eventually, after this action is complete, Lord Oakwind will be able to assault the settlement. Okay. Okay, now with the settlement captured, we are going to have the opportunity to reform the government. This will come up as you conquer more and more settlements. You will have the ability to reform the government. This time we are reforming from a city-state into a county. We are going to reform into the county of Torrenvale. Click reform and we get an additional character. Every time you reform the government, you can gain an additional character. You start as a city-state, you work your way up to a county, then a duchy, then a kingdom, and finally an empire. And by then you'll have 5 characters. So we've got Sir Ysara, or however you pronounce that there. He's back in Torrenvale now. You can see that he's got a unit as well. And he is idle at the moment. If we hit on pause, we are going to see him encourage migration. So you can see that the population is going to be artificially increased through the use of our named characters. Food production is good at the moment, so what I am going to do is I'm going to depopulate one of my locations in the recently conquered city of Mirawood, and I'm going to recruit an additional unit of footmen here. We can see that Pellenmere has conquered another city, this time Ornowick in the south. So this army's actually moved down here through our lands and has taken Ornowick along this river. Going to recruit an additional unit of bowmen in the capital now. I will do the same in Mirawood as well. Unfortunately, we don't have the gold for the Mirawood units, so we're just going to have to deal with the one in Torrenvale. Let me just show you how some of the other actions work now. We've unlocked a few more. These are context sensitive, so they'll show up if it's a valid action. Move basically transfers the character. Garrison allows you to move other units like bowmen and footmen. So, for example, Count Oakwind is in Mirawood at the moment. We can actually move him back to Torrenvale. Because there's only 2 settlements, the game's smart enough to recognize that the move command is to Torrenvale. And then let's just wait a second here for the bowmen to be recruited. Okay, the bowmen are now there. Count Oakwind hitting Garrison. He's going to go automatically to Mirawood because that's the only other settlement. And then select which units you want to take from the garrison in Torrenvale. So we'll take the bowmen that were recruited. And the Count is going to head over there. Obviously, Sir Ysara is still in the capital there, encouraging migration. Good. And the army is looking quite strong, 700 men. And I think it's time, for good or for ill, to move on an enemy settlement. We can see that that Pellenmere has actually sent their army over here now to Hulwick. So I think they would be a good target. So military, assault settlement, and let's go for their capital. Let's go for Pellenmere. And again, you can select which units you want to take all, and the army will begin to move to besiege Pellenmere. Okay, so the Count of Pellenmere has decided to continue his siege. He's not going to come back to defend. And the army will begin to attack the capital there. The Count was defeated in his siege. He is now retreating. Okay, this is one of the battle screens. So we can fight the battle, auto-resolve, or withdraw. For now, I'll just show you auto-resolve because it's 700 against 100. We are heavily favored. If we chose to, we could withdraw, but we shall not. We shall auto-resolve the battle. 20 casualties in one of the footmen units. The enemy bannermen were wiped out, and Pellenmere has now fallen. The named character will retreat to Pellisted. And before we end this video, let me just show you one final battle. Hopefully get you a big battle this time. So the army is going to move down south to Lorestead. For now, I should say that it's basically a free-for-all. You don't declare war. It's like a battle royale. Again, there's also no sound in the game. This is the MVP, minimum viable product. So there's a lot of issues with the game. So don't expect any sound, and don't expect to have to declare war or be declared war on. So the army is assaulting the settlement. It's on 690 men against 500. Time to fight this battle, and we will fight the battle, and we will go to the tactical battle simulator now. So you can click units, you can reorganize units. The system's quite smart in terms of where you should have your units, so automatically deploying like this looks good. We could see the enemy units in the fog of war there. We don't know how the enemy has deployed. We can see that Count Oakwind is on the flank there with his bannermen, the front line of footmen, and 2 units of archers behind. So, time to start the battle. If you hover over any of the units, you will automatically pause. That's why nothing's happening here. And these arrows will basically indicate where units are firing. So you can see that the archer's targeting these footmen here. So is this footman, if I go 1 over, oh, nice battle tick there. You can see the footmen are attacking Lord Ravenwatch there. You can see Count Oakwind is actually flanking the enemy lord. He gets a flanking bonus. If it's a diagonal arrow, it'll do bonus damage. If it's a straight arrow, it'll be normal damage. Okay. And basically, the casualties are calculated based on the roll. I don't want to move the cursor because I'll unpause the battle, but you can see up there that the defender has a +1. So that basically means that the enemy has an additional 1 added to their attack. So for example, the footmen here, say they had a +1 in the roll for the phase. Their melee attack is 3. 3 + 1 means that they would deal 4 casualties to the enemy. You can see here that the ranged has 2, so 2 + 1 is 3 damage. Because it's the defender +1, they don't have any bonus, so these ranged, you can see in the bottom right, are just doing 2 casualties worth of damage. Whereas if I go over here to the bannermen, we can see that the bannermen have a melee of 3. 3 plus the defender phase is +1, so 3 + 1 is 4 casualties. You can see that in the bottom right too. I hope that explains it. Each phase lasts 3 combat ticks. So if we just unpause here, we can see that, okay, so a new phase. This time the dice roll was 6 for the player, and the enemy had a dice roll of 3, and they get a natural +1 from being fortified in a city. So 6 versus 4 means that the attacker gets a +2 to their damage, and you can see that the bowmen now are now dealing 4 casualties per combat tick, because 2 ranged plus the 2 from the combat roll means that they will be dealing 4 damage. Another thing I should say about the combat system is you can see that there's 2 black lines on, first of all, that green and red bar for each unit. That represents the manpower. If manpower drops below the first bar, which is at 40%, they will begin to rout. And if a unit routs, they will no longer attack. They will be on the battlefield for 3 combat ticks. And after 3 combat ticks, they will leave the stage. Now, the second black arrow, the one closer to the left, that is more critical. That is at 10%, and that is the shatter threshold. If a unit drops below 10% of their manpower while still in combat, they will be shattered, and that will mean that the unit is totally destroyed. So there's a rout threshold where the unit will leave combat, and there's the shatter threshold where they're just taking so much damage so quickly that they will be annihilated. So I think that's pretty much everything covered. You can obviously retreat if you want to. I'll just let this battle play out. So there, you can see that the bannermen have taken so much damage. Their manpower has dropped below 40%. They will begin to run. Bannermen are unique in that they have no shatter threshold, so they will always survive because they've got named characters. But for other units, like the spearmen there, they got shattered, and I think these units are going to get shattered as well. Yeah, because they're taking so much damage. You can see the bowmen here fighting the good fight. They're in melee now. So if units have a ranged attack and they are in the back line, they will use ranged. These bowmen, they are in the front line now, so they're using their melee stats. So they're not having a good time. And they're being attacked, not just from one unit, they're actually being flanked by all of these units here. And that is why they're taking so much casualties now. Okay, so after the battle is won, there's a pursuit phase. It'll basically mean that your units, if you've got cavalry, they will be in the pursuit phase, and they will basically have a free attack against enemy units. They get a +6 for pursuit. They're going to deal a lot of damage. And the battle is over, and this is the results screen. You can see the casualty breakdown. There was one unit of footmen that got absolutely hammered, and then there was 2 other units as well that got some casualties. The enemy army was totally destroyed, and the settlement is now in the hands of Torrenvale. And with 3 settlements, they can reform their government into a duchy. So now we have the Duchy of Torrenvale, and we got another character. And I think that's pretty much everything I want to discuss at this stage. That's version 0.1. I hope this acted as a tutorial, kind of help you understand core mechanics. This is very early in development, so there is no tutorial in the game, and this is my way of basically communicating what the fuck is going on. So I hope you liked it. I hope you found it interesting, and by all means, if you do play the game, give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. And I think I will leave it there, and I will see you next time for version 0.2.